The U.S. Space and Rocket Center says it's working with police to stop multiple threats they say have been made against several employees. Those threats were allegedly made after some parents made social media posts accusing a transgender woman of being in the girls' dorms at Space Camp. Space Camp says its investigation is still happening, but can confirm it says no child was physically harmed. They say that investigation will speed up once students return from spring break.
Hey folks, Dale Jackson here for Yellowhammer Now, and it is becoming readily apparent that one of the flakier premises about the entire situation at Space Camp in North Alabama involving their treatment of transgender employees and underage students, is wrong. There seems to be this idea that nothing has happened at Space Camp except for a transgender employee existing. This is the argument being made by the mainstream media, but this is the same mainstream media that told you that Bubba Copeland did nothing wrong except be a cross-dresser before he killed himself after he was exposed for his weird online postings and his odd behavior as the mayor of a small town and a Baptist preacher. But that wasn't true. It still isn't true, but the media still pretends that's the case. So it should come as no surprise that they are suggesting that there's nothing odd going on at Space Camp. But I'm here to tell you that information has been brought to light that, yes, there is something odd going on there. And there are allegations, once again, as much as people will tell you that there is no allegations except for the fact that a trans person exists. This, again, is not true. One of the allegations that has been made is that, A, the individual involved in this that people have raised an alarm about and who has been suspended by Space Camp, that person was seeking to have conversations about sexual identity and gender and all these other things with students. Another allegation is that that person entered a female space. Well, they are, in fact, a biological male. Those things themselves are troubling because no 12 and 14-year-old kids are going to Space Camp to get this kind of an education. So raising that issue is a completely reasonable thing to do. And while it may not be quote-unquote criminal, it still doesn't make it right, and it surely is not what people are expecting when they send their kids to Space Camp. But something more troubling has come to light, believe it or not, from the Space Camp situation, and I believe it requires some form of legislative intervention. An individual who has a child that was supposed to be going to Space Camp here in the near future was somewhat shocked when they asked about the sleeping arrangements at Space Camp. And the person responding to this concerned parent told them, well, if you put down on your form that your 14-year-old boy is a girl, then we will room that person with young females. And that's what we're going to do, and that's what we've always been doing. Now, the question here is that appropriate? The answer to that is no. The other question here is, are parents being informed of this when they send their kids to Space Camp? And the answer to that is no. They are taking it upon themselves, the people running Space Camp, to make these decisions. And I don't think people understand that this is what is happening when they send their kids there. Now, maybe the kids don't care, but what are they going to do if they do? The media has made it crystal clear that if you complain, well, then you just hate trans people. And you're also being told that this is completely normal, and there should be no questions about this, which, of course, neither of those things are true. The parents have a right to know that they are sending their children to a camp where the people who run it have made the decisions that if you are sending your daughter there, she will be camping, bunking, living with an underage male. Now, again, maybe the kids don't care about this, but the parents absolutely should, and the parents have a right to know this. Talk to parents who have sent their kids to Space Camp. They do not know this, but this is happening. We have the evidence. I will put the email up once again that shows that this is happening. And I ask legislators on the state and federal level, What are you going to do about this? This is not what people expect when they send their kids to space camp. This is not appropriate in any way, shape, or form, whether the camp is being run by a nonprofit connected to the state, whatever, it doesn't matter. If a private entity was doing this, you would raise questions about it as well. So there are allegations, and maybe not of criminal wrongdoing, but of things that are not right happening at this facility. So our friends in the mainstream media who tell you, what's the big deal? There's nothing going on here except a trans person existing. That's wrong. There is clearly a culture at Space Camp that most people didn't understand was taking place. And our friends in the media, once again, instead of telling this story, they are more interested in burying the story, as they did with Bubba Copeland, and telling you that if you ask questions about this, you're the bad guy. Let me explain something to you. You're not the bad guy. You're allowed to have questions about this kind of stuff. This involves children. And I'm sorry, the parents still get a say in what goes on in their children's lives and what they are being exposed to, regardless of what some bureaucrats or some low-level employees decide. The parents still have a right to know. So it is unequivocally true that if you were to send your kid to space camp, that they could potentially be bunking with someone of the opposite sex because their parent put down that they are of the opposite sex, and no one there is going to question it because they're apparently in the business of affirmation and not science at space camp. So just know this is happening, and yes, it does require some form of intervention by the people that provide the funding to this facility. Now, Space Camp had an opportunity to fix all of this when it started. They could have come out and said, look, here are the things that we've realized, here are the things we are doing. But they've decided that they don't want to do that. So now it's time to force them.